Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Music Rating, Ranking, and Reviewing podcast that we like to call Music Meltdown, in which we rate, rank, and review any artist's discography, songs, musical topics, whatever have you. This episode is going to be part 2 of the album exchange series that I'm doing with Grant here. You saw the last one, you know the records in question. So let's just kick it off, Grant, with your familiarity with the records that you chose to give me.
So we talked a little bit about it last time, but the 5 records that I chose were Paac with Malibu, which is one that I didn't hear when it first came out, but revisiting it around the time when Silk Sonic was coming out, I was kind of diving into Paac and both Bruno Mars. This was one of those ones where it was just like this immediately upon first listen became one of my favorites of that entire decade. A lot of fun, really cool album. Love that a lot. There's so much charisma, so much fun that Anderson has in his music in there. Number 2 was Marilyn Manson, Antichrist Superstar, which I loved so much in high school. So much. We'll talk about how I even find that holding up. But I still do find that it's interesting. I'll just go ahead and leave it at that. But it's got nostalgia hits for me. Number 3, Snoop Doggy Dogg with Doggystyle. Another really just easily Snoop Dogg's best album. One of the best of G-Funk. Don't even give me that head nod. Snoop Dogg. What is better than Doggystyle from Snoop Dogg? Like legit. But yeah, just some of that great Dr. Dre production. Fantastic. Again, we'll get into that. Number 4 was Primus, easily one of my favorite bands of the 90s, maybe even one of my favorite bands just of all time. Man, Les Claypool, the 3 that are on these first 3 albums, the little 3-man trio that they had, just the chemistry and everything was just off of the fucking charts. It was so good. Love it so much. Easily, I think it's still my favorite Primus record, but you could really pick any of those first 3 and I'd be okay with it. And then number 5 was Porter Robinson's Nurture. Came out at a time where I needed it. This album just means a lot to me personally. I got to see Porter live and a festival. It was pretty, I hate saying life-changing because it's so hyperbolic, but it was a really cool, I don't know. I'm not a very spiritual person, but it was a very spiritual experience for me. So, and I still think he does a lot of very interesting things on that album. But those are my 5.
Nice. My 5 went with The Dust of Retreat by Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos, one of my favorite indie bands of the aughts and the early 2010s. This thing, yeah, it's a really great record. It has like a cool kind of arcade big band sense to it. I think Richard Edwards is just a great singer. Afterwards, went with Emily's D Plus Evolution by Esperanza Spalding. Incredible art rock record from the 2010s. Get a ton of her jazz influence, and the bass work is just sensational. Afterwards, another record with just killer bass went with Life by Sly and the Family Stone. The best sort of crossing of their progressive sort of funk and heavy just grooves with their earlier sort of pop R&B stuff. Really killer. Next up, I went with One Chord to Another by Sloan. Big power pop energy, but you got a ton of just energy and almost aggression in some of these songs, sort of Beatle-esque at points and just great to listen to. And the last one, I went with Misadventures by Pierce the Veil, a bit of metalcore arguably in here. Just sort of a record that it's kind of the first thing that was heavy that I ever got into. I was just curious how it would play for you because I hadn't heard it in a while. Admittedly, it held up better than I expected it to, which says a lot. So yeah, those are my 5. Curious how they will land for you. So,
All right. So number 5 for me was Pierce the Veil, Misadventures. And it's not to say it's bad. Honestly, I was pretty cool with all 5 of these albums. Again, I don't really think there was a big miss. This type of music just releases that nostalgia dopamine chemical in my brain. It does. The heavy breakdowns, I get into those. I'm a big person who I like to move when music is playing, whether it's like me badly dancing, whether it's headbanging, whether it's just that energy. That's something that means a lot to me in music. And I got that a lot from this. Just a lot of cool rocking tracks. Definitely more poppy. It's much more tailored to, I would say, almost more of a mainstream. They don't really do anything crazy. They don't really go experiment much. Everything is kind of about the same kind of poppiness. Cool sectioning them. I liked some of the breakdowns of like Texas is Forever. I think my favorite song was still the title track. I was like, that was a hell of a way to start that album. The drum part in Phantom Power and Ludacris Speed was also really cool. That little really heavy breakdown and the way that drum part came to kind of bring everything back in for that, like almost that final chorus. Super cool. And then Circles, I liked a lot, although is easily the most like pop, like radio ready track. Like you hand that album in, if I was a record guy, that's like that's right there's single that's going on the radio. That is on the radio right now. But I liked that track. I gave it about a solid, like a low to solid 3.5. But like I still enjoyed it a lot. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I couldn't say it was better than a lot of these other ones where there was just a little more talent that kind of was going into some of these things.
The other ones were not metalcore. So
I see that means nothing to me.
I know.
I've got no problem I put Marilyn Manson over quite a number of 4s and 3.5. So
you can get down with the sickness. It's all good. Yeah.
Absolutely, I could.
I don't know. This is an album that I have some nostalgia to, especially the closer song for Isabel was the song I heard initially. I still really love that one. I think Floral and Fading, I think, is really cool. It's a bit of a slower and more somber number. And I just really like how they're able to blend that sort of poppy, sort of melodic appeal into this, for lack of a better term, kind of bro-y style at points. I think it's pretty cool. Definitely some cool parts there, and I'm glad that you were able to enjoy it. As I alluded to with you, I liked this batch of 5 considerably less. Bottom 2 records that you gave me, I didn't like much at all, and I'm sorry for that. But I will say this: my bottom 2, I didn't like much at all. My top 3, I liked a fair bit, and I've heard all of my top 3 times now. So I've gone back to them plenty for this. At the bottom, perhaps a bit predictably, it's going to be Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson. And yeah, I kind of hated it. Here's the thing. I think Trent Reznor is an incredible producer. I think if this were a 9 Inch Nails record, it could be really good. The issue is Marilyn Manson. I don't like his voice, their voice. I don't know. I don't like the songwriting at all. It just feels incredibly try hard. Like they're just trying to be this massive sort of like big guy and is just screaming these things at you. And it's just, nobody gives a shit. And I'm sorry to bring it up, but just knowing the stuff that he's accused of or has actually happened, you are like the worst person to be displaying this type of attitude. The primary issue as well as length. This shit is 70 minutes long, and it's just, you feel it. I love the production. I think that it is a great sounding album. I think that it's a cool, unique industrial rock style. The issue is he's basically just shitting all over this hard work, I feel like, because I just can't handle it at all. I don't know. Low 2, borderline 1.5. It's just not for me at all. I'm sorry, man. I'm glad that you're able to draw enjoyment from it, and I don't want to take that away from you.
Absolutely. I mean, kind of one of those things where once I gave it, I was like, I know they're probably not going to gel with this. I even kind of went back to see how I felt on it, and I'll give it this: the songs that I love. Like the lyrics have aged so bad. The lyrics have aged so bad. It's it's embarrassing a little bit. But some of the songs like The Beautiful People, I still think that's a fucking awesome track. The middle of this album is so rough. Other than the filmography and Wormboy, like the middle of this album is like it's a slog. Um, but yeah, I like a lot of the cool different ways that it has like that industrial feel that Trent Reznor production is awesome and rampant throughout the album. But yeah, it definitely didn't hold up the way I thought it was going to hold up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
nah, yeah, it is what it is. I wanted to say, but how else was I gonna get you to listen to Marilyn Manson? This was just my chance. So
Well, there was another way that I'm beyond grateful that you didn't do.
I didn't even want to do a full fucking discog dive on this guy. I want a whole episode devoted to him. 1/10 was okay.
That that'd be the episode where I start giving props to Jack White right there.
Good. Hey, well, shit, you just gave me a reason to do it. My number 4. I feel bad. I think this is one that would grow. I feel like a couple of these are growers for me. But my number 4 is Sloan, one chord to another. It's one of those things where being in the unfortunate position that I'm in, where I've heard a lot of the bands that are influenced by groups like this, they've done it with like another, it's like they're like chicken. It's like, the first time chicken's ever been put out, but I've had chicken with rice and broccoli and cheese and all this cool stuff on top of it, to the point that just having chicken is like, it's not as, just by itself, it doesn't stand out as much. But if it was the first time I was ever having it, I'd be ecstatic. I've heard the bands that have been influenced by this, and I've heard the musical style that has had this interfused with other things, with more interpersonal lyrics that hit better for me, ones that I've been able to sit with, to the point that hearing this just kind of was like, it's just kind of another album in that vein. I did get a lot of those Beatles influences. I felt that very strongly throughout. Also, it sounded like the Beatles almost mixed with like Elliott Smith, like Autobiography. I almost thought I was listening to Alameda by Elliott Smith. The beginning of that track is like very close to it. This came out before Either Or, so I don't know if Elliott Smith was listening to Sloan, but that song gave me a little like ooh, I know, I feel like I know that part. And just, I did like that quite a bit. The horns on Everything You've Done was also really nice. Favorite track was definitely the opener. Another one was the opener, like the energetic drumming that was coming in on that. The different sounds that were coming in there at the end too, the way it kind of tailed off. I liked it a fair bit. But it just, again, one of those ones where I'd have to grow a little bit more with it and really get it down. But that one I give about a solid 3.5.
Nice. Yeah, that's one that grew a lot for me too. They're massive in Canada. Pretty big band there. So you didn't really remark on it, so I'm not sure if you knew or not. They're actually a band where all 4 of the members are different songwriters and have their own tracks on the record. So that might be alluding a bit to that sort of Beatle nature to it. And yeah,
Yeah,
I think
100%.
it's really great. I got almost like a slight sort of punk energy to some of the songs that go around. I think it's just a total blast front to back. That one's 4 for me. But anyways, moving up from here, once again, you know this is coming, and I'm sorry. It's going to be Nurture by Porter Robinson. And there's only one way I can describe this. I am just, as bluntly as I can put it, I'm just not an EDM fan. I get nothing from the style. For me, it's just completely atonal. It's not very tuneful to me, and I just simply can't get into it. Which is weird considering some of the other stuff. Like I got down with fucking Schwangel, but this dude having these really incredibly well-made and intricate electronic stylings is too much, really. I don't know. It's a big weak point of mine that I need to work on a bit. And that's just simply the best way I can describe it. I feel like if you are a massive fan of EDM, of techno, of sort of dubstep in some parts, because I definitely got some dubstep influences here, you would absolutely love it. I totally understand the critical appraisal that this gets. It is just not at all something that computes for me. I have it at 2 stars, but if I was rating it objectively, it has to be at least 4 stars. But just personal preference and just for me, it's just not at all my cup of tea. So more than glad that you love it. And I feel like just seeing him throw on a show, like just DJing at the front, I would assume would be fantastic. I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, this is definitely one that I feel like is very of the time. Again, came out in COVID, so it was kind of one of those things where it was kind of one of those lockdown records that just kind of, it's something that you almost just kind of bathe in. There's a lot of tracks where it is kind of upbeat and it has a little bit of poppiness to it, and then there's tracks where it is just kind of glitchy instrumentals and glitchy pieces, glitchy piano parts put over top of each other that are just kind of made into almost a sound collage sort of way. But yeah, songs like Musician and like Look at the Sky, Something Comforting, those are like I will carry those songs with me forever, 100%. Really cool stuff though. For my number 3, I gotta go with Margot and the Nuclear So-Sos with The Dust of Retreat. I liked it. Don't get me wrong. Again, I mean, I like all 5 of these albums. Uh yeah, again, it's not even really something to hate on this. Again, another great opening song. I love the warm tone on the instrumentation. The background vocals are great. Really cool feel to it. Skeleton Keys, another really cool track. And then, it just has a lot of cool, like the guy has a really nice voice, a lot of little cool, interesting styles are going on throughout there. Paper Kitten Nightmare was something. Meow Meow all over the place. It was an interesting, interesting song. I liked a lot on first listen. On the second listen, I was getting a little tired of it, but yeah, I don't know. I liked it. It just still hasn't fully again like gripped me. It feels like something that really could though. I do like it a lot. That's another strong 3.5, maybe even a little, you know, touching 4, maybe. But yeah, that was my number 3.
Yep. That one stings a bit, so only fair after Porter. They're massive for me, but I mean, I don't blame you. When it really boils down to it, they're very adjacent to other indie groups, and I feel like if you like the other groups, they're a little bit more successful. I can't fault you for it. But anyways, into the top 3, and I really liked all of these records. I'm at 4 stars for all 3 of, not all 3 of them. We'll see. At number 3, going with Doggystyle by Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Knew it.
And yeah, I mean, production alone is just absolutely sensational. I think his flows are really to die for. I love all the features across here. Possibly not more than him, but I think the features are great. I like kind of the fun skit energies that kind of flow in with some of these tracks too. Gin and Juice is obviously a classic. I think Serial Kills is really great. What's My Name? Probably my favorite track on here was Ain't No Fun. I just love that kind of R&B infusion that you got through it, very soulful. Almost reminds me, this is gonna be a weird comparison because I heard this record the other day. It almost kind of reminds me of the song Pussy Control by Prince, where it has like that R&B kind of hip hop infusion to it too. And yeah, I just thought that song was fantastic. Only thing I'm not crazy about is I don't think the closer Pump Pump is great. I think it's kind of a weak way to end the record. And I do think that the opening 2 tracks, despite being good, it's kind of like too much preamble before you really get into it. Still at 4 stars though. I think it's a very strong record. Just I don't know. I feel like I've heard better hip hop from this time period, but the highlights on here, I mean, Chef's Kiss, love them. So number 3, Doggystyle by Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Just want to mention it, but G's and the Hustlers, dude. That bass line. Oh my god. That gets me so hyped every time I hear it. But yeah, Snoop Dogg is so good on that album. And it's just such a shame that nothing else is like it. That he cannot find that same thing again. but we shouldn't want artists to do the same exact thing again. I don't know. That's a whole different thing. My number two.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that wanting somebody to do the same thing over and over is that bad if what they went on to do just kind of sucks. I don't
True.
know.
True.
But, I don't know.
Yeah. I had to formulate that argument a little more. That's just like I just kind of formed it in my head, but
I get what you're saying though. I wish some bands would just do the same thing over and over again. So
yeah, for that one, it's one of those ones where it's like you had something. He already came in with something unique. That wasn't even like he was copying something and then it was like, oh, let me experiment out and find something new. You came out with something that was just you just came out with the G Funk, like that huge, awesome style. His style, like you said, his flows. There, it's you hear Snoop rap, you know who it is, 100% right away off the bat. He has a very iconic voice, sure. And it's just kind of like stay in that lane, and he wanted to go out of his lane, which good for him.
Yeah,
bad for me, I guess.
I mean, pretty good commercially for him. So
yeah,
I bet he's not complaining about that paycheck.
Man will not say no to a feature.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name right now. Corey Feldman. Yeah, you got it. 100%. I'll be there. My number two, Esperanza Spalding with Emily's D plus Evolution. This one benefited again very much from the re-listens. One of my problems with really good musicians that I find sometimes is that someone can be a really good musician, but not a great songwriter. So sometimes like you'll get someone who's able to play like really good and make some cool stuff, but it's like, it just either so convoluted or it just drags on or gets boring or something. Something's not able to bring it in and kind of, keep you in. I don't think she nails that, but I think she's better than a lot of other people in that vein. Unconditional Love was a fantastic track. Loved it a lot. One of the weird ones for me was Earth to Heaven. The chords during the section of that chorus felt like heavy metal chords. Like, just, I mean, obviously not with like the heavy distortion and like the, feeling behind it, but like if you played heavy metal chords on like a jazz guitar with like a little like reverb and something, it was just very weird to me when I heard it. And I was just like, oh, okay. I like that a lot. Rest in Pleasure was another one I liked. I think that was the one where she was like, she had like the like those little ha's coming out. I loved those. I had a funny comparison that I knew would make you mad, but I was like, I got Regina Spektor vibes from that. It was very, it was a little quirky, it was, using more like, it's not really even like Regina Spektor. It's more just, like vocal jazz touches is more what it is. And I draw that to Regina because that's who I hear a lot with it. But yeah, I like those little vocal jazz touches. She's really good at it. Ebony and Ivy was another one that I really, really enjoyed. Really cool. Elevator Operate was another really one I liked a lot. I give that one about a solid 4 for me on Esperanza Spalding.
Nice. Yeah, that's one that just keeps growing more and more. I know you say Regina Spektor, but let's up that a bit because I get more like Kate Bush from it. Think like if Kate Bush had like the like sort of jazz qualities like a Nora Jones, I think that's just love it. It's a record. Yeah. Especially the closer too, where she's covering like the Willy Wonka song. I think that works way better than it has any right to. Love it. Anyways, number 2. I feel like this one should be obvious, but kind of surprising that it's number 2 at all. Going with In Sailing the Seas of Cheese by Primus. Yeah, I really dug this a lot. Obviously, Les Claypool's band and just killer grooves front to back. I got massive Faith No More qualities from this, which is like before Angel Dust too, so that's really awesome. And this is another one I'm not really sure how to properly describe because it's just like front to back. It's fun. It's kind of like Faith No More, The Real Thing, like Blood Sugar Sex Magic, but take away kind of like the pop energy and add a bit more darkness to it. I think Claypool, I believe, is the singer on this, right? And I think he's solid. Like, he's not like a great singer. To compare him to somebody else, I'd say maybe comparable to like a Stephen Wilson from Porcupine Tree, where he fits the music, but like technically speaking, isn't an amazing singer. And I don't know, it's just something about it. I'm able to get deep into their grooves and their styles. It's like individual songs are nothing for me because it's just the feel of the record. It's not that long. It's only 45 minutes and it really does just breeze past you. And it's just, as you were saying with the Esperanza Spalding record, I think it's just a technically well-engineered group of musicians, or maybe just less. I'm not totally sure how Primus are, working together to formulate some absolutely fantastic music to the point to where that's all I really cared about. I wasn't like digging into the lyrics, deciphering every little thing, because I just think front to back, it's a really enjoyable, really just killer rock record. High 4 stars for Sailing the Seas of Cheese by Primus. Probably in my top 10 for 91 now. Really like it a lot.
I'm glad you liked that album. People's voice is always a thing that kind of like some people just can't get past, and I totally understand that because he's a character. If one thing you could say, he is a freaking character, and he makes like stories for his music and for the characters in his music, and really cool though. Number one, loved it. Sly and the Family Stone with Life. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, this is my shit. This is my shit. One of those great things, just listening to music and you hear the samples that are in different 90s music, 80s, 90s, 2000s rap music, and they're always drawing from groups like Sly and the Family Stone and stuff like that. One of my favorite songs is actually an EDM song with Fatboy Slim's Weapon of Choice, but he uses that horn part from Into My Own Thing. And as soon as I heard that, I fell in love with that track immediately. Super cool. Everything on here though just has that funk, that soul. It's got it all, and it's done really well. Vocals are done great. The backup vocals are done fantastically. Chicken was definitely an interesting song, but from the different from the Meow song in a sense that I just felt like it worked better. So that, and then like the little carnival sounding intro to Life was also really cool, to the title track there. And then that last track, Jane is a Groupie, I really liked a lot as well. That loved that march beat that was kind of going on there, working at that into like kind of that funk sound. But that one I had it about a 4.5 actually, about a solid 4.5. Loved that album a lot.
Nice. And I say it's looking for them to just groove out even more, go a little bit deeper into the catalog, stuff like Fresh, Stand, there's a Riot going on, especially. Those are a bit more politically based records too. If you just want some great pop stuff, you got one before it, Dance of the Music, then you got like Small Talk afterwards. And Larry Graham, he's the dude who has like the really deep voice whenever he sings. I absolutely love his vocal work. I think that he is really understated with how good he is there. His bass, I mean, come on. You're not getting better than Larry Graham bass lines, I'm telling you.
It was so good. I enjoyed it so much.
It says a lot that he ended up working with Prince. So,
all right.
Yeah. My number one, pretty obvious knowing me. Well, Malibu by Anderson .Paak. However, this is one that didn't quite gel with me immediately. I had it 3.5 my first go around, and I really thought Primus was going to take it as number one. But I re-listened at work and I re-listened today. I'm up to 4.5. I think it is a great album. And it's just fun. I get massive, and I don't know if I'm alone in this, I get huge D'Angelo influences here. With his infusion of like hip hop and R&B, I think it's very akin to what I'm blanking on it. I think it's very akin to Voodoo and what D'Angelo was doing there, but I think it's a little bit tighter because I feel like the production styles of the 2010s better suit this. I kind of I like that Silk Sonic record, but I feel like that's where my introduction to him was. And I feel like on that they're drawing a little bit too much from just 70s soul and R&B and stuff. It's still good, mind you, but it's a little bit too rooted within that style. Here, I feel like he's incorporating a bunch of funk. He has a ton of hip hop influence and points. The features really elevate it. And I think here he's just really coming into his own. there's just so much great stuff here. The opener, The Bird, is fantastic. I love Am I Wrong? I think Parking Lot is just out of this world killer. Silicon Valley's great. And the closer, The Dreamer, just ooh, like 5.5 minutes of just oral bliss there. Love, love, love it. Really just fell in love with this record each time going through it. I can't quite say it's a guarantee for top five in 2016. That year is absolutely insane, but it's definitely in consideration. 4.5, probably from what I've heard, my favorite overt like R&B album of the entirety of the 2010s. I think it is fantastic. 9 out of 10, 4.5 stars for Malibu.
I'll take it. You nailed all my favorite songs on that fucking album too. I loved it. Oh goodness. Yeah, that was another one where I would say the only thing that may slightly hurt it is its runtime. But I do think it packs enough interesting things in there to run out that runtime pretty well. But yeah.
The runtime was an issue my first go around, but like as I kept listening to it, you're just getting deeper and deeper into the grooves and into his kind of like, I don't even know how to describe his vocal style. But just it's very akin to Prince, I would say. Massive like Prince influence there as well.
Yeah, I can see that. He's like he almost just like commands everything.
Absolutely.
He feels like this is a very weird description. He feels like Mickey Mouse from like Fantasia, where he's just sitting there waving everything around. He's getting the brooms to dance. He's making the waves come up. You can't dance and she can't move. You know, like just that, like, oh, but he's so charismatic in the way his personality shines through in his, like the way he sings. And it's infectious. He's so much fun.
I mean, hey, you're right. So I can't complain. Not where I would have taken it, but I mean, you are 100% correct on that. So
I knew that was probably gonna be your favorite of the bunch too.
Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be. I thought Primus had it at the start there. It's just as I kept going back to it, I found more things individually. I feel like this batch was, aside from the bottom two, stuff that really grew for me as I kept going back to it, and that was the main one that really sold me. Kind of want to ask, I'm a half star higher on this than I was for Schmongel, but you stuck at 4.5. Would you say that you liked Life more or less than Anarchy?
I gotta say more.
Interesting. Very different records, though. So, not
I gotta say more simply also because I gotta give them the edge in things like influence and just I don't know the way it stands up to time and everything. It just that Sly and the Family Stone is like iconic shit.
Oh yeah, for sure. And to think that's not even commonly regarded as like a top 3 album for them. So
God,
you just gotta keep going. I was tempted to give you one for our next theme, but I didn't want to because I didn't want to double back, wanted to get some new blood in there. Which, speaking of, we decided to have a theme this next go around, going to be a theme for the next couple of these, where we're highlighting a specific decade, doing the 70s to 2010s, maybe 2020s if there's 5 good ones, but we'll see. That being said, though, like I was saying, we have 5 records picked out from the 1970s to give to one another. Did you want me to start out with you? Did you want to?
You go first.
All right. First one I'm going to give you. I'm going with one of my leading ladies for this decade, the one and only Patti Smith. With the first album from the Patti Smith group, I'm going with Radio Ethiopia. Probably my favorite Patti Smith record, just art punk, very much poetic in what Patti Smith chooses to write about and how she chooses to write it. I think at this record, it's very artistic, very well put together, but you still have great energy and just a ton of influences that can be drawn from it. I think that it's just a really fantastic record. The song Ain't It Strange is the first one that I ever heard by her, and I absolutely love it. So going with that one, a bit of a classic in regards to the group that we discuss, a bit of a cult loved record as well. Going to the Byrds with their most regarded member, Gene Clark, with his record No Other. very much like a progressive sort of country style of record, incredibly soulful, but you still have great folk energy and fantastic playing front to back. Gene Clark, of course, formerly of the Byrds, and his writing is just sensational. I feel like there's a ton to get out of this one, whether or not you love the style or not, and the influences that this record has had on so many cannot be understated. After that, I'm going with a bit of a weird one, and I'm not sure how you'll think about this. Not quite disco, but pretty close. I'm going with the record Main Course by the Bee Gees. This was their final record before like really doubling down on that pop disco sound. You get a bit of the pop influences that they were doing, but you get a little bit of soulful energy, a little bit of psychedelia still. I think that it's hard to deny just how brilliant the Bee Gees are as pop songwriters in and of themselves. And on this record, I feel like they're really greatly blending what they would later do with the disco stuff with their earlier, more psychedelic and just great 60s pop. But you're getting the 70s here and you're getting it really well done, so you can't argue with that. These next two are the ones that I really love here. As you know, I'm a massive fan of Fleetwood Mac, and I'm going with the record Bare Trees. This is the album of theirs that has both Bob Welch and Danny Kerwin along with one another. And I think that this is just a brilliant record in sort of soft pop rock craft. Of course, you still have the brilliant rhythm section of John McVie and Mick Fleetwood. And all I'll say here is if you can't get down with the song like Sentimental Lady, I think that we got to wrap this series up quickly. Just incredible pop craft. And then my number one is by a band that I love way too goddamn much. Going with Sunburst Finish by Bebop Deluxe. Just absolutely great. This is them starting to veer a bit into pop, but you still have just the sublime playing of the band. Just fucking Bill Nelson is absolutely shredding it up front to back across here. You got a song like Ships in the Night, which has great sort of pop energy to it. And for me, it's just art rock, pop rock, progressive in points. Just love it. That's going to be my batch of five, and I'm really curious how these are going to play for you because you don't talk about the 70s that much, so it'll be fun.
Definitely. I mean, it is. I like a lot of music from the 70s, but it is just a matter of I don't know all that much. So most of the stuff I'm finding is either stuff that was given to me by my dad or stuff that I've heard from other people or stuff like sites like Rate Your Music, where I'm just kind of going through charts and just kind of seeing what the top stuff of the years were. That being said, one of the problems with that is that a lot of the albums I know from the 70s are stuff that everyone knows, that people just are very familiar with. So most of the albums I've heard from the 70s, you have heard or at least have rated. These five I checked. So again, let me know if you have heard any of these. But I think I've got five that I didn't see on there. We're going to start with number one. It's going to be John Prine with a self-titled album. Really cool country touches. Prine's lyricism is fantastic. Definitely one of those ones you want to see if you can try and get some lyric books up and read them. He's very with his instrumentation. Very lovely album. My number two. This one's going to be interesting. Don McLean with American Pie. It's an album. Again, this is going to be an interesting one for me on a re-listen because I know the title track and I know Vincent, and I love Vincent a lot. Other than that, I don't remember too much from this album, but I have a very scarce pool to pull from. Don't worry. The next years and next decades, I have plenty of stuff to pull from there that'll be interesting. But here, where I was very limited to what I had. Number three, and this one is one I didn't discover until it was in the TLM Discord. But Ronnie Foster's Two-Headed Freak, really cool jazz fusion kind of music. You'll see. It's actually a lot of fun. I liked it quite a bit on first listen. I'm excited to give it another listen. These next two are the ones where it's like, okay, these are ones I know, and I really hope you haven't heard this next one Frank Zappa with apostrophe. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Don't break my heart.
Okay.
I thought you were pulling the record.
I own it. I haven't
No.
heard it.
Oh, okay. All right, good. So I gave you a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Frank Zappa. He's the Mothers of Invention. Frank Zappa, I love a lot of that music. I think apostrophe is probably the most newcomer friendly. Yes. I mean, Jesus. Look at that face. I love that. Oh my God. It's one of my favorite album covers. I want that on vinyl, actually. That's one I actually really want to get. But yeah, really interesting. We'll see how much you like it, because it's Frank Zappa being Frank Zappa. He is very interesting. He's very if you like Mike Patton, I mean, Frank Zappa was, I would say, Mike Patton before Mike Patton. So especially like very have you ever heard Mr. Bungle? Anything like that?
I've heard, I believe, Dance California and Self-Titled. I have them both at pretty solid 4s.
Okay.
So
yeah. So if you like that like crazy instrumentation that can kind of go on where, 1 second it's very normal and then the next second it's just all over the place. It can be like that quite a bit for his stuff.
I feel bad now because I meant to bring up Mr. Bungle whenever I said Primus, whenever I was talking about that record earlier. And definitely you get some comparisons there. So
definitely a little bit. Yeah. I love Mr. Bungle. That's actually one of my favorite groups in the 90s is too. And then number 1, and this one's interesting. This one is one I got from my dad. But Tommy Bolin's Teaser. So Tommy Bolin had a short stint with Deep Purple.
Oh, yeah.
Had a couple other groups, but unfortunately he died from like a drug overdose, mid-70s, like right when he was about to like actually like take off and pretty much get pretty big. He unfortunately passed away. Teaser is easily my favorite of his solo stuff. Really cool album, a lot of cool, interesting instrumentation. I'm very interested to see how you're gonna like that album, but this is the one. This and the Frank Zappa one of the ones I had the most personal connection with.
Let me lay down some scenery for you. Come Taste the Band is my favorite Deep Purple record. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah. So Tommy Bolin, I think you might jive with it.
Yeah. That is an interesting batch from both of us. Like, no classics, no like ones that people are just blowing their minds over typically. So, well, Zappa. Yeah, Zappa.
Right.
Zappa kind of throws a roof in there.
I love Zappa, dude.
Yeah.
Zappa's my guy.
I can't say I've even heard a Zappa song before, so that'll be really interesting to dig into it. So
it will be an interesting.
I feel like 80s is really going to be where things fucking open up here, because that's going to really demonstrate some wackiness, I suspect.
I've got everything ready for the next couple decades.
I should do that. I'll be honest, I didn't really settle on my stuff till like 2 days ago. So, because then I didn't know what we were doing yet, but it is what it is. That being said, really hope that you enjoyed this discussion. We all got some great stuff in there. I was rather rude to some of these, and I apologize for that. But oh well, it is what it is. Hope that everybody enjoyed, and you have a great one.